A new report claims that Ahsoka Season 2 is not locked in yet. Let's get into this here. This new report comes from Anthony de Alessandro at Deadline as part of his Ahsoka Season 1 finale recap article. He writes, "We hear that Ahsoka Season 2 is more of a reality in the conversation, though nothing is locked yet." This report comes amid Ahsoka's floundering viewership ratings. The show's 2-episode premiere initially debuted on Nielsen's top 10 overall chart in 5th spot with 829 million minutes. You can see that right there, number 5. 2-episode premiere, 829 million minutes. However, by its second week, it had dropped off the top 10 overall chart. Instead, it placed in 5th on the top 10 original chart with 487 million minutes. You can see that right there. Now, in its third week, the viewership has declined again. The series has fallen to 7th on Nielsen's top 10 original chart with only 459 million minutes viewed. So, in its third week, we had a decline from 487 to 459. That's what, like around 20 million minutes lost. Analyst Valiant Renegade shared his thoughts about these week 3 numbers for Ahsoka, writing on X. He says, Nielsen updates seem to suggest Ahsoka ratings fell in week 3, episode 4 over week 2, episode 3. I'm betting heavily on lots of rewatches in tandem with an overall shrinking audience footprint following the debut week, episodes 1 and 2. And from this point onward, he then predicted episodes 5 through 8 should see about a 20 to 30% bounce in minutes watched from this floor, due simply to commensurately increased runtimes versus episodes 3 and 4. I'm actually going to probably disagree with him a little bit. I think we've seen enough trends where people do kind of come in towards the middle of these seasons and they rewatch a lot of the first, second, third, fourth, fifth episodes. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's actually a bump when we get to around episode 5, episode 6. Especially episode 7, you might see an increase there because people are coming in and the way Nielsen records, they record all episodes. They're not just recording people watched this episode. They didn't. So when you're looking at that 459 million minutes, that's not just episode 4. That's all episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4 for that week. So it's everything watched for that show of that week. So I would not be surprised if we do see maybe a little bit of a bump when you get to potentially episode 6 and 7, where people are now binging it and catching up on that end. So Ahsoka's viewership was in line with what Nielsen reported for Andor Season 1 when it debuted last year. Andor's premiere week, which included its first 3 episodes, drew 624 million minutes. That was good enough for 6 on Nielsen's top 10 original charts for the week. In its second week, viewership declined to 485 million minutes when it premiered its 4th episode. As you can see above, Ahsoka was at 489 million minutes, so they're pretty close there, 4 million difference. In its third week, though, on the Nielsen charts, Andor's viewership had declined to 356 million minutes, which placed it in 10th on the original chart. Ahsoka significantly outperformed Andor in its third week by over 100 million minutes. So a little bit of a departure there. That could be due to more people were watching Ahsoka. People had tuned out of Andor or had completely done it. People were doing rewatches of Ahsoka. They were rewatching all of Ahsoka, whereas like with Andor, they weren't rewatching anything. Lots of different factors could be playing in there, but it's very different decline there in its third week. Nevertheless, the downward decline is not a good sign for the series. Andor was originally planned to be a 5-season show. Tony Gilroy, the creator, told comicbook.com back in May 2022, originally we thought, maybe we'll do 5 seasons, but it's just the scale of the show. I think when the show comes out, everybody will forgive us for not doing that. The show is huge and it's just physically impossible. So then we were like, what are we going to do? And then the answer turned out to be incredibly elegant and perfect because we knew where we wanted to go. Every now and then you get really lucky, and the solution turned out to be really fortunate for us. The series was shrunk to just 2 seasons after it was reported by The Hollywood Reporter. The first season had an estimated budget of $250 million. So maybe that's what he's talking about by it being huge, is that the budget is absolutely massive, and they weren't getting the return from that. So given viewership of Ahsoka is somewhat comparable, I do think it is. If you look at the first 2 weeks, they were kind of really close. It'll be really interesting to see what happens in the 4th week next week. And so obviously you had that huge difference there in this week with the 100 million minutes difference, but they are somewhat comparable there. It's hard to imagine justifying the enormous cost, which estimates claim are at least upwards of $100 million. That's for Ahsoka. It could be even larger. I'd probably say it's probably less than Andor, given the fact that Andor was using all of the physical sets, whereas Ahsoka is clearly being filmed on the volume, and they're trying to cut costs down with that. But still, having upwards of $100 million, probably not getting the return on investment that investors might be looking for, or that the Walt Disney Company might be looking for. But what do you make of this report that Ahsoka Season 2 is not yet locked in, as we're seeing declining viewership week over week from the Nielsen charts?
Subscribe for more.